Since President Donald Trump's inauguration, he has openly criticized the European Union, EU, on several fronts, including trade imbalances, tariff policies, NATO contributions, and the EU's stance on the war in Ukraine. These criticisms have culminated in the US implementing a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports from the EU, effective today. In response to the US tariffs, the EU has announced countermeasures targeting $28 billion worth of US goods, with the new tariffs set to commence on April 1st. Before diving into the details of the EU's tariff plan, let's first examine Trump's recent criticisms of the EU over the past few weeks, which have escalated into the current trade confrontation. Over the past 2 months, former President Donald Trump has made several critical remarks regarding the European Union. On February 10, 2025, President Trump signed a proclamation reinstating a 25% tariff on all steel imports and increasing tariffs on aluminum imports from 10% to 25%. This action revoked previously negotiated exemptions and quota arrangements, subjecting all countries, including EU member states, to the full tariffs effective March 12, 2025. The administration justified these tariffs on national security grounds, citing concerns over global overcapacity and unfair trade practices affecting domestic industries. The Trump administration has also expressed strong opposition to digital services taxes implemented by several EU countries, viewing them as discriminatory against U.S. technology companies. On February 21, 2025, President Trump directed his trade officials to consider responsive actions, including tariffs, to counteract these taxes. This directive underscores the administration's commitment to defending American digital enterprises from what it perceives as unfair taxation. Trump's actions against the EU extend beyond just tariffs. He has repeatedly expressed his dissatisfaction with the bloc on multiple occasions. In his virtual address to the World Economic Forum, WEF, on January 23, 2025, President Donald Trump articulated a critical stance toward the European Union, EU, focusing on trade practices, regulatory policies, and defense commitments. President Trump accused the EU of imposing unfair taxes and regulations on American technology companies, specifically mentioning actions against firms like Apple and Meta. He described these measures as a form of taxation and expressed his administration's intent to address these disparities. Trump announced plans to impose tariffs on EU goods, stating, "Am I going to impose tariffs on the European Union? Do you want the truthful answer, or should I give you a political answer? Absolutely, absolutely." He further criticized the EU's trade practices, saying, "The European Union has treated us so terribly." Trump accused the EU of unfair treatment towards the US, stating, "From the standpoint of America, the EU treats us very, very unfairly, very badly." He described the EU's trade practices as an atrocity, expressing dissatisfaction with the existing trade dynamics. Trump suggested he would not defend NATO allies in Europe if they did not meet the alliance's defense spending target of 2% of GDP, stating he would encourage Russia to do whatever the hell they want. He has also declared intentions to implement a 25% tariff on imported cars, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors, aiming to encourage companies to relocate operations to the U.S. Now, the EU is expanding its retaliation plan, going beyond expectations. On Wednesday, the EU announced its decision to impose retaliatory tariffs. following the U.S. administration's move to levy 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. This decision revives trade hostilities reminiscent of former President Donald Trump's first term, when similar duties were imposed, citing national security concerns. The previous EU tariffs, which had been suspended, are now set to be fully reinstated starting April 1, 2025. The EU's countermeasures focus on strategically sensitive American exports, particularly those originating from Republican-led states. The affected goods include agricultural products, soybeans from Louisiana, beef and poultry from Nebraska and Kansas, industrial goods, steel and aluminum products, consumer goods, textiles, home appliances and vehicles, luxury goods, bourbon, boats and motorbikes. Canada is set to announce $29.8 billion Canadian dollar, approximately $20.7 billion US dollar, in retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods in response to President Donald Trump's recent imposition of 25% tariffs on all U.S. steel and aluminum imports, which took effect earlier today. This decision reflects Canada's position as the largest foreign supplier of steel and aluminum to the United States. The specific U.S. products targeted by these tariffs have not yet been detailed. The EU aims to initially penalize €22.5 billion worth of U.S. exports but retains the option to raise the target to match the full €26 billion impact of the U.S. tariffs. The EU's approach is designed to apply pressure on politically sensitive U.S. regions while minimizing domestic economic repercussions. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen emphasized that the response is strong yet proportionate, advocating for negotiations rather than prolonged economic strain. The EU's trade chief, Maros Sefcovic, has been designated to lead negotiations with the U.S., offering concessions such as reducing tariffs on industrial goods and increasing imports of liquefied natural gas and defense products from the U.S. European markets responded positively to the developments, with the Stoxx Europe 600 index rising 0.7% and Germany's DAX gaining 1.2%. The euro remains stable despite the escalating trade tensions. However, European steel producers are preparing for a dual impact: reduced exports to the U.S. and an influx of redirected steel from global markets. The Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, provisionally applied since 2017, has been a cornerstone of EU-Canada trade, eliminating approximately 98% of tariffs between the two economies. This agreement has facilitated a significant increase in bilateral trade, with both parties now seeking to fully exploit its potential. In February 2025, Canada's Trade Minister Mary Ng visited Brussels to discuss avenues for deepening trade ties with the EU. Key topics included enhancing market access for small and medium-sized enterprises, which often face bureaucratic hurdles when exporting. Both sides acknowledged the need to streamline processes to facilitate smoother trade operations for these businesses. Strategic collaboration on critical minerals. Another focal point of the discussions was collaboration on critical minerals essential for various industries, including technology and defense. Given the EU's desire to diversify its supply chains and reduce dependence on single sources, partnering with Canada, rich in these resources, presents a strategic opportunity. This collaboration aims to ensure a stable supply of critical minerals, thereby enhancing the resilience of both economies. Energy cooperation initiatives. The EU's ongoing efforts to reduce reliance on Russian energy imports have opened avenues for Canadian energy exports to Europe. Discussions have explored the potential for developing pipelines and other infrastructure to facilitate the export of Canadian oil and gas to European markets. While these projects face domestic challenges within Canada, including environmental concerns and opposition from Indigenous communities, they are considered vital for strengthening energy security and trade relations with the EU. Business adaptations to tariff challenges. European companies have also been proactive in adjusting their operations to navigate the new tariff landscape. For instance, Swiss chocolate manufacturer Lindt and Sprüngli announced plans to shift its chocolate production for the Canadian market from the US to Europe. This strategic move is designed to sidestep Canadian retaliatory tariffs on US-made products, ensuring competitive pricing and maintaining market share in Canada. Collective responses to US tariffs. The EU and Canada have expressed unified opposition to the US tariffs, emphasizing their commitment to a rules-based international trading system. Both have threatened to implement retaliatory tariffs on a range of US goods, aiming to pressure the US administration to reconsider its protectionist measures. These actions underscore the importance of diversification and strengthening intra-bloc trade to mitigate the risks associated with reliance on a single trading partner. EU-US trade wars and tariff disputes. The impending trade dispute closely mirrors the 2018 conflict when the Trump administration introduced similar steel and aluminum tariffs under the justification of national security concerns. At that time, the U.S. imposed a 25% tariff on steel and a 10% tariff on aluminum, prompting swift retaliation from the EU. In response, Brussels placed duties on a variety of American products, including motorcycles, denim, bourbon, orange juice, and steel-related goods. These industries were strategically chosen to exert political pressure on Trump, particularly in states with strong manufacturing and agricultural sectors. Temporary ceasefire. By 2021, Joe Biden's administration brokered a temporary ceasefire, leading to the partial removal of U.S. tariffs and the adoption of tariff rate quotas. Under this agreement, the EU suspended its countermeasures, fostering a more stable trade relationship between the two economies. Let's take a quick pause. If you've enjoyed the video so far, could we ask a small favor? Hitting the like button helps us reach a broader audience, and sharing your thoughts or feedback in the comments makes an even bigger impact. Thank you for watching. Now, let's dive back in. Now, with Trump prepared to reinstate full tariffs, the EU is gearing up to retaliate, risking the rekindling of tensions that had been subdued over the past few years. The economic fallout from renewed tariffs would be significant for both the EU and the United States. European manufacturers, especially in the automotive, machinery, and food sectors, could experience severe disruptions if steep tariffs are imposed on exports. The EU is already looking for alternative suppliers to minimize its reliance on the United States, though some industries may struggle to mitigate the damage. For the United States, retaliatory measures from the EU would strike key industries, causing political challenges for Trump as he campaigns for re-election. The EU is likely to target essential American exports, particularly those tied to influential political constituencies. If agricultural tariffs are reinstated, Trump may face mounting pressure from farming states dependent on European markets. Likewise, increased tariffs on consumer goods such as motorcycles and denim could harm American manufacturers relying on EU sales. Beyond the immediate economic impact, the dispute could have lasting repercussions for transatlantic relations. A prolonged trade war would